Hey guys, first off, thanks for listening to the podcast, and we wouldn't really have a podcast if it wasn't for our sponsors. And this month, for the month of June, our sponsor is myarttools.com, and they're promoting their new premium twin pack landscape sketchbook. They sent us a bunch of them to so we could hand them out to the attendees of our monthly life drawing events, and we just had one of those, and everyone really dug the sketchbooks. They're really nice. They're travel size. They're 13 by 15, 150-pound paper. It's good for almost any art needs you have. Ink washes, marker, color pencil. You're good to go with this paper. And they come in like a heavy-duty bound cardboard cover front and back, so it's really durable, so you can toss it in your backpack or whatever. It's going to withstand a little tossing around. And My Art Tools has a money-back guarantee on that, so if there's something wrong with your sketchbook or if you're just not satisfied, you can return it and you can exchange it for something else or get your money back. And you can go to myarttools.com and check it out. And you can also go onto Amazon. They have reviews there. You can check out what people have to say about their products. And we just want to say thank you to myarttools.com for sponsoring us. And we're going to get into the podcast right now. Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and we are coming to you today from the Craft Beer Cellar at 31 Main Street in Plymouth, as we always do. And we are here today with Jen and Paul from Plymouth Harbor Knits. It sounds straightforward, but exactly what is Plymouth Harbor Knits?
Plymouth Harbor Knits is a yarn and fiber store in the Village Landing Marketplace that has a lot of fiber and some knitting and crochet classes.
So when you say fiber, I think of like Raisin Bran. That's not what you mean.
No, it's not Raisin Bran.
So is it just all sorts of yarns and threads and that sort of thing?
Yarns and threads and patterns and supplies for knitting and crocheting.
And you guys are relatively new to town. You've been here, what, a year-ish?
We've been just a little bit over a year.
Yeah.
It was an established yarn store prior to our ownership, but we've owned it for a little over a year.
Oh, so it's been a yarn store for a while.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what made you want to get into the yarn business?
I've been an avid knitter my whole life,
yeah.
And my husband's always wanted to own a business, so we decided we combine those two and see how it works.
Yeah. And you're like, we work when we want to, that kind of thing.
Oh, no, I wish.
Yeah. It's always interesting, people's perspective of what they think running a business is going to be like.
Exactly.
And is it what you were expecting, Paul, or?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But, we really enjoy it. We don't mind having long days.
Yeah.
And starting early and ending late. I'm kind of an early person and early bird.
Oh,
and
you're one of those people.
Yeah, get up early. We get a walk in, take the dog for a walk, and then we do some work.
Gus is an adorable dog.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Little beagle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And, we get a lot of time in there because we both work full time during the week, and then we're doing that on the side. So it certainly keeps us busy and engaged,
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun so far.
So where you guys work full-time during the week, is the store open? Like, do you have staff that keeps the store open while you're at work?
We do. We have 3 great staff who are very knowledgeable and very supportive of the business and want to see it flourish, because
Nice.
it's really not, there isn't anything else in Plymouth that really offers that type of
No, it's
art.
very unique. I feel like it was probably more common back in the day,
Yes.
and now it's just easy to go to Walmart and get a sweater opposed to knitting one.
Exactly.
So when did you start do you knit and crochet?
I primarily knit. I can crochet.
Okay.
I started when I was 9. My mother
Yeah.
and I made an Afghan together and just took it off from there. Yeah.
So knitting, trying to remember, my mother did both. Knitting is with 2 needles and crocheting is with 1.
Correct.
Very good.
Yeah, I remembered something. That's very unusual for me. So you started when you were 9. At like, what point were you like? Did you catch on right away? Like, really fell in love with it? Or?
I did, actually. I started at 9, took it to camp with me, forgot knitting needles, made my own knitting needles out of sticks.
Oh, no kidding.
And used some string. Yep.
Do you still have them?
I do.
Oh, that's cool.
And, kind of took a break during college because we were busy doing other things, but picked it back up again. Did a lot of fun knitting with the kids when my kids were little, and then just loved learning new techniques and taking it from there.
So now do you make, different items, sweaters and blankets and scarves and stuff, and sell those as well, or just the supplies?
Not right now. We're still just doing samples to demonstrate what some of the yarn can do in the shop, but eventually we will be selling the samples that for wear.
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing that blew my mind as a kid is my mother would just pick up yarn and start going. Like, she did it her whole life, as far as I know. Like, I never saw her use a pattern. I never saw her, like, how do you, is it kind of a sculptural thing where you can kind of just figure it out as you go, or do you need, like, a specific pattern to work from?
A lot of people do need a pattern to begin with just because they're new with the knitting and don't understand how the yarn will work together. But yes, as you get to go along, you can be very creative and makes anything that you want. Right now, I'm working on a yoke patterned cardigan for a child.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how big it's going to become. I really don't know what the colors are going to look like, but I'm just having fun kind of experimenting.
You just
kind of
go, yeah. And you can I think you can always, if you screw up, just undo it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
called ripping it out.
It's called ripping it out
Ripping
with
it out.
lots of swear words, yes.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. When it comes out at the end, it's going to really look great.
Right.
Because she's really a phenomenal knitter, and has made some beautiful patterns and beautiful products as samples for the shop. So it really inspires people that go in there when they see them to, hey, I'd like to make something like this, and it helps get them generated with ideas.
Nice. And so if someone wanted to learn to knit, and they come into your shop and go, I want to make that, and point at a hat or whatever, do you then kind of set a time with that person, or do you have scheduled classes? Like, how does that work?
So, yeah, we usually do a beginner class on a Saturday. That's open to anybody interested. We do try to encourage people to start with some practice stitches, just because it's really involves a lot of muscle memory.
Yep.
And then move on into a project that they may enjoy. We have mom and a daughter actually right now making this really cool suede cowl with fringe. It's kind of cool.
Now, what do you mean by suede cowl? Like,
It's,
is it made from leather?
Quasi leather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
But it looks like one of those 70s.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
With the fringe hanging
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
Pretty
neat.
cool. And then there are private lessons. There's crochet lessons during the week. And we do projects. So there'll be, we've done a woolly wreath for the holidays. We've done some double knitting, coasters and headbands, and we're exploring some cable pillows and some mitts. Yep, we're going to try to do some mitts.
Thrummed mitts.
Thrummed mitts.
Thrummed mitts?
Thrummed mitts.
What is that?
They're lined with roving to make them extremely warm. So they're really pretty. Yeah, it's a fun technique too.
Have you ever made my girlfriend has them, they're like mittens, but you can take, I don't know how to describe this on the radio.
Fingerless mitts.
Well, it's got like it's almost like a fingerless mitt with a mitten cover.
Yes.
That like, have you ever made those?
Yes, yep, those are really neat.
Yeah, she loves them. Now, is it kind of a seasonal thing? Like, do you see it business and interest in it drop off during the warm weather?
We're in a unique situation because we're in such a tourist town that we actually do have traffic throughout the year.
Yeah.
We do see a lot more tourists coming through in the summer. A lot of our local customers do tend to stay away on the weekends because it does get so crowded.
Oh yeah.
But we can be busy, and then there's other times where nobody's there and it's quiet, and we'll see what happens the next day.
That is the life of a business owner. Yeah.
It's interesting because we'll get customers coming in and they'll say, wow, the shop looks different. And they'll remember the year before they were here when it was the previous store.
Yeah.
So just because we've kind of gone through 1 year as a cycle, so we're still learning. But and then we explain how we've opened a new shop. We really did a lot of work to it, make it brighter, lighter, bring in some new fibers and yarns and colors and different exciting materials.
So
and they're pretty happy with it.
Do you knit?
I do.
Yeah. And
I'm a beginner, though.
Yeah, so it's something you kind of picked up because of the shop?
Pretty much,
Yeah,
yes.
that makes sense. Yeah. Got to kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I really learned a lot about the fibers to begin with.
Yeah.
The different weights, the materials, what you'd use them for, what kind of patterns we could have, what the books are that we have and what they can do for people. So I can kind of work people in the right direction to help them get the materials that they want, find the right colors, and come up with what they need to walk out so they can actually make what they want.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going on a trip and I need something that's small and light. And do you make socks? Well, here you go. Small circular needles, some nice sock yarn, an easy pattern, and you can put that in a small bag.
I suppose you can't bring knitting needles on an airplane.
You can.
You can?
Absolutely.
Really? That seems like that would be, like, of the things that you can bring on that, I feel like that would be on the no list.
No, it's circular. They have the circular ones, which just have short
needles,
shafts on them, and then usually wood. They don't usually like metal.
Metal.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But it's common, yeah.
Yeah. So, is there a stigmatism as far as like men knitting? Like, have you gotten any crap from your friends?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No. In fact, we had an event at work, and it was like tell two truths and a lie.
Yeah.
To know everyone.
Right.
And one of them was knitting, cooking, and spearfishing. And everybody knows I love to fish, so I think it was a little bit but they know I like to cook too and eat.
Right.
So some people were surprised that I knit.
Nice.
But
Do you spearfish?
No, I just regular fish.
Just regular fish?
Yeah.
I have not spearfished.
Nice. So what do you have kind of planned for this summer? Because this is your second summer, a little more established.
Yeah.
Classes, events. Like, what are you looking to do this summer?
This Saturday, we have a big Knit in Public Day, so it's a worldwide celebration of knitting and crocheting. So we're inviting everybody to join us at the gazebo at the Village Landing Marketplace so that we can...
This will probably go out after that.
Okay.
So there was 1 million people that showed up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Plus traffic and everything.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then this summer, we actually have a woman that's interested in teaching some spinning.
Yeah.
So that's taking the wool fiber directly from the animal and then spinning it into yarn. And then
Does she bring a sheep with her? Or?
No, you buy the roving from either a farmer.
Yeah.
We have a couple of suppliers for alpaca, or you can buy it from some of the stores in the area. And then we also have a weaving that we're going to try to promote.
Cool.
Yep, and there's a couple of looms, and I'm trying to find a teacher for that as well.
Now, are you planning on bringing on other things like cross-stitching and other types of thread
work? Yeah. So that might be something that we're looking at. We're heading to one of the big conventions for yarn shops in a few weeks, and hoping to gain some tips that are current, learn some new strategies for marketing, and maybe some new avenues to explore for needlework.
Nice. A little birdie told me that you have a street art project that you're planning.
We do.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We're going to yarn bomb a lamppost and railing over by the Village Landing Marketplace.
Now, explain what yarn bombing is.
Yarn bombing's supposed to be a surprise.
Yes, yeah.
So the cat's out of the bag on that one.
Yeah. But you asked for permission.
Yes, yeah,
which is not
I
the
did.
normal thing.
Nope.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of just covering common everyday items with something that's knitted. So we have women that have been contributing squares to the shop, and one woman is going to sew it, and then we're going to wrap a lamppost. And Paul has been making some pom-poms that we're going to drape all over a stair railing, and who else knows where else that'll go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, how do you even go about something like that? Is it like a big sock that you put over it, or do you have to kind of put it in place and then crochet up one side, or?
I think they're going to have to do it as they go.
Yeah.
Yes, they'll have to wrap it and sew it as they go. Mm-hmm.
Top down or bottom up?
Top down.
Good question.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out how you would do that. So I suppose you would kind of drape the top, and is the where it's a lamppost? Are you trying to leave the glass section visible?
Open. Yes. Yeah. So it'll just be around the pole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't
so
want
it'll
to
be a circular
heat next to the
structure.
light there.
Right.
Oh yeah, I suppose that's not. Most stuff's LED now.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably be.
But
Mostly.
we're gonna kind of put it up there and see how it looks and come up with something that's going to be fun.
Right.
I think in the future where there may be an option to look a little bit more at something and craft something that's going to be a little bit more designed for the area.
Mm-hmm.
And we were thinking maybe of one of the lobsters around town.
I know a guy.
Days.
I know a guy.
Yeah, we thought that would be kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And just come up with a plan for that, and then we know it would fit.
Right.
And it would go right there, and it would be like a specific yarn barm that we designed for it.
I'm not sure what they're planning with those lobsters, because I know when we did them, they told us they're going to be up for 2 years, which ends the end of the summer. So I'm not sure. I know some people bought theirs outright and plan on keeping them, but I know a lot of them, I think, go up for auction, and
I've heard that.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to do another batch, because it's been a huge success, I
Yes,
think.
definitely.
I would think they would.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Yeah, I mean, it's been almost the full 2 years, and they were just on Chronicle 2 weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
I think it'd be great to design one. I mean, it's hard to put yarn that lasts for a long time out there.
yeah, but
to
you could
design
seal it or something.
Yeah, seal it and or even paint some parts of it to look like a sweater.
Right,
and
right.
Have some other parts that you could take on and off and put different things on for the season.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it'd be really fun
That'd be clever,
because you have summer sweaters and
Right.
you have winter wear and hats and gloves and scarves and all kinds of articles we could make for it.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a really different approach to the lobster than the ones that you see now.
Right,
That
and it would
you
be-
make it and it's static for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and it'll be something that kind of always evolves, and a reason to go back and check it out kind of thing. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, how are you guys Plymouth natives, or where are you from originally?
We just moved here about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We had lived in Taunton for probably about 23 years. We had lived in Rhode Island. Paul's from Rhode Island. I'm from all over the place, so we're around.
So, how's the Plymouth area been as far as a business owner?
Oh, we love it.
Yeah.
We actually love it. It's there's a lot of nice support for businesses. There's a lot of people that want to come together. Art Week is one example of a great opportunity to meet other artists and come together as small businesses, and share with the community all the different great things that we can do. We have other businesses that have collaborated with us on the Clay Chick actually has collaborated with us on the yarn bowls, which was great. We're hoping to do something.
Oh, did she make the ones that are on the table?
Yeah, well, no, we did,
Oh.
but we did it during her event.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. That's cool.
It was
Yeah.
a knitting
Yeah.
yarn bowl event
Oh, that's
between
cool.
both of us. One of them was made by me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whose
we're-
is better?
Jen didn't make one.
Oh,
no.
okay, all right.
She was
No.
teaching
Yeah,
and
so-
talking.
yeah.
So,
choice
yeah.
between my daughter and my husband's.
Oh, okay. So then it's your daughter, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We hope to collaborate with the craft beer seller and do some kind of a beer and yarn event in January or so.
Yeah, we were, because she always asks me, she's like, oh, who's coming to record? And I'm like, oh, Plymouth Harbor Knits. And she's like, do you think they'd do something? And when I got here today, she's like, it's on my bucket list to learn to knit. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm sure they'll be down to at least teach you how to knit. So
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Jen's a great teacher.
Yeah. It's just such a great art. It's relaxing. It's creative, and I just want more people to be able to do knitting of some kind. Yeah.
Now, your customers, do you see a particular kind of customers, an older crowd? Are you trying to get younger people into it?
There are quite a few customers who are older, who prefer a certain kind of yarn. We are trying to get more younger people. There is definitely a different way to advertise and reach out to our younger customers.
I feel like hipsters would be into to knitting.
They are. They are. It's just reaching them. So
Right.
we're trying to find different ways to do that.
Yeah, we've reached a pretty good group of people, customers from the local area, and I'm amazed at how nice they are, how welcoming they were, and how happy they are to have a local yarn store that they don't have to drive like such a long way. Because a lot of people like to come into the store and actually see it and feel it and see the colors.
Right.
So
which
when
you
we
can't get on Amazon or
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't really do that. So when you come in and you can pick it up and they're like, I'm really looking for something that'll check these boxes, and you show them a few samples and the oohs and the ahs and the that you get out of them. That's really where it's at.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get. And then we do have some younger customers that have come in either to learn how to make an article for the first time, made a new hat. We have some of those on our Facebook page.
Nice.
Number one hat, holding it up there.
Yeah.
And learning to knit, and like this mother-daughter that's currently taking the class. I think that's fantastic. And we're trying to work with some like local people that have like more unique colors, like Lady Di in Boston, and hopefully promote a little bit brighter materials for projects that maybe the younger crowd would look forward to.
Right. So as far as the material that you're using, is it all natural? Is there synthetic? Like, is one preferential over the other?
So we carry quite a bit. There is still an interest in acrylic yarns because they wash so well. But we are trying to use various fibers. We have yak, we have alpaca, we have llama, and they all lend different textures to the yarn. And they all take color differently as well when it's dyed. Silk, cotton, linen, all those types of fibers are available. That's a wool. Yep.
Is there, like, how am I going to phrase this? Is there like a historical aspect to knitting? Like, would the Pilgrims have been knitting when they came over?
Absolutely. Actually, the Plymouth Plantation has a group that makes authentic knitted items that were worn by the Pilgrims when they came, and it's very, very fine work that's using a pretty particular type of yarn, but to make it as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
They limit the yarn and the colors
Yep.
that they can use based on what they had back then.
So you can't do any like puce or goldenrod or
Right. Chartreuse.
chartreuse. Yeah.
But as we understand it, in the old days, way back when, knitting was a man's function.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it served as a way to get your materials or your clothes.
Yeah.
And when it was a work back then, men did the work.
Oh, okay.
And so men were the primary knitters. And what happened was the Industrial Revolution came, and now you had machinery to make the knitted articles. So it was no longer a work anymore, so men didn't have to do it.
So it became a
And
craft.
It became a craft and a pastime, and then it became a broader audience of men and women that chose to make knitting, their pastime or a hobby.
Huh, that's interesting. Have you ever listened to, there's another podcast called Stuff You Missed in History Class?
No.
It's an excellent podcast. It's put out by NPR, and they do actually a lot of fashion and textiles because it happens to be an interest of one of or both, might be both the hosts. And so they talk about the Industrial Revolution, machines coming in, and so it's a good listen. I'd recommend it. So when men were kind of the main knitters, was it how much clothes were made from knitting, and were other things made from knitting?
Everything: undershirts, underwear, long johns, socks, vests. Yeah,
because I feel like it's probably an easier skill than weaving. I would think. I don't really know.
Well, with weaving, you still have to create the garment after you've woven the fabric.
Right.
Whereas knitting, you're knitting it and shaping it into a fabric.
So it's more kind of time efficient, and I suppose you don't need a loom.
Mm-hmm. I think weaving was more for blankets.
Yeah.
Type thing.
And it also made clothing.
Yeah, made some clothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the dyes that are now currently used, they're probably more of a chemical thing. They probably don't use natural berries or whatever.
There's actually a big movement towards using more natural organic dyes, especially for those that have allergies or young children.
Yeah.
So there's plant-based dyes that they'll use. They're probably not as vibrant as what you would get from a factory, but they're pretty
There's
nice
not a
dyes.
plant that makes neon pink?
I know. Huh? And then they're also using, there's a cool way to dye some yarn using Kool-Aid. So
Oh,
you just
really?
kind of mix that up with some yarn, and you've got some pretty funky colors from that.
And that doesn't wash out?
Nope.
Huh.
You have to rinse it with vinegar, and vinegar sets
the
color.
Now, can you tweak the coloring by taking already colored material and adding Kool-Aid to it?
I think that might come out a little messy just because the coloring and an already dyed yarn has been set.
Okay.
There is a process of heating it again and setting it so that it doesn't run. I mean, some yarns do run, but the goal is to set it. So that it
growing up, I
doesn't.
had some pink shirts.
Yeah,
it happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
underwear.
Yeah. I think every blanket in our house was an Afghan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What is your favorite thing to make?
Right now, I'm liking socks.
Yeah.
Baby sweaters. I do like scarves and hats. We made some really cool hats with the new pom-poms on them. That was a very good gift to give to people. And, I like to make most things that are knit.
And so you mentioned baby sweaters. When it comes to a baby, are there restrictions on what kind of material you should use? I mean, because they're more
messy,
fragile.
Well, yeah. Usually, the big thing with baby sweaters is using something that is washable.
Yeah.
Because babies are messy. So we usually recommend acrylic kinds of things and not the silk and linen blend.
So
yarns.
what I meant is there a material that you don't use because it would maybe cause rashes or kind of not so much the baby affecting the clothing, but the other way around.
And they do sell some organic cottons for young children. Again, for that particular interest of making sure that their skin isn't reactive to the fiber. But for the most part, we've really seen some success with the acrylics, and they are pretty versatile.
For the most part, anything that's natural is natural. So it's just whether, somebody doesn't like wool or doesn't like the feel of wool. Or some people have an allergy to it. Sometimes the allergy is more of the structure, the feel on your skin, because it can be a little harsh if it's a really unprocessed wool.
Do you get, so you have these classes, and I'm assuming that when they decide, so say you're going to be teaching a sweater, do they get to pick what colors?
Of course.
Have you seen some really horrible color combinations?
Yes.
Do you try to advise them, be like, no, pink and green, maybe not the best color combo?
Yep. or their choice in the pattern sometimes is just not conducive to the type of yarn that they've chosen. So we try to talk with them about making sure that they match the pattern with the yarn. Some patterns come with specific yarn that you're supposed to use, but we try to encourage people to explore beyond that and not using that specific yarn.
So is there like sweater making yarn and hat making? You're like, is that what you mean?
They're pretty versatile.
Yeah.
It's the weight of the yarn. There's different weights of yarn. So anything from a fine lace, very thin yarn, to all the way up to a super chunky roving type of yarn that makes those popular heavy blankets that you've seen people. Pinterest shows a lot of them that are the heavy ones that are arm knit. Actually, they use their arms to knit. Some of these blankets.
You use your arms to knit?
Yes. You
the
don't
roving's like as thick as a quarter,
Okay.
so to speak. So they actually, or maybe even.
So you don't really even use needles?
You don't even need needles.
You can. We have
Yeah.
size 50 needles. That
Yeah.
are pretty big, but you could use your arms too.
Huh.
So the pattern really is what defines the yarn, because the pattern will tell you what size the yarn to use, size of the needle, and how many stitches per inch. And then it gives you the texture and the look and the feel. So whether it's a really tight pattern or whether it's a looser pattern with bigger strands of yarn, more space in between them.
Yeah.
So that's why the pattern kind of defines what you need to use in order to make it come out to look that way.
Now, as far as like drawing and painting is concerned, you can generally look at something, and if you know their art well enough, you can be like, oh, that's done by so-and-so. Can you do the same thing with knitting? Can you look at someone's work and be like, oh, this is clearly Paul's work? And I don't mean it sound bad.
Yeah. Well, you can certainly tell a beginner knitter from an experienced knitter. That's for sure. And then there's some people knit left-handed, so their stitches are slanted differently. There's different.
How do you knit left-handed if you have needles in both hands?
You hold the yarn with a different hand, and you're moving the stitches
so
in the opposite way.
Okay,
yeah.
Kind of like writing,
Yeah.
left-handed, how it's...
Yeah, I make fun of my boss all the time for that.
Yeah.
And then there's continental knitting, which is a different way to hold the yarn. You're throwing the yarn, so to speak, with your finger. There's the Portuguese knitting, where you wear a hook around your neck and you're throwing the yarn around a hook.
Yeah.
So all different ways. So an expert, I guess, could probably tell the different techniques that are used, but the big thing is telling a beginner knitter from a more advanced knitter.
Yeah. So, like, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell a specific person's work.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if they follow the pattern, it should look pretty much the
same all the time.
And it's really... Like one of the other differences is some people knit tighter than others, and others knit looser. And it's just a matter of how tight that the yarn is around your needle and when you pull it out. And it actually has a tighter pattern than other people would.
Now, are there certain things that will prevent someone, like if someone has shaky hands, or will that prevent them from being able to knit, or?
Not usually. Again, it's the willingness to practice, and it is a muscle memory that really helps you become a good knitter. So they do recommend it for. Actually, I read an article that was using knitting to help Parkinson patients just kind of have a little bit more control of their hand, and as long as it's a rhythmic movement, they were able to control the movement of their hands a little bit while they were knitting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Does knitting kind of fall into other areas where it could be therapeutic? Like, I would assume that it could be very relaxing.
Yes. Yes, it is very relaxing because it's rhythmic, because it is, sometimes you can do it while you're watching TV, or you can just sit and think and meditate while you're knitting. It is a very therapeutic approach, as long as you are not having to rip it out again.
Then all the therapy goes right out the window.
Goes right out the window.
Yeah. Then you need therapy for your therapy.
Right.
In that podcast I was telling you guys about, they were talking about how they say some people find it easy to learn to knit in the dark. Have you heard that?
It wouldn't surprise me. I've not heard of that, but it would not surprise me.
So do you look at what you're doing while you're knit, or is it literally that much muscle memory where you're not even really paying attention?
I think it depends on what kind of learner you are.
Yeah.
So we have individuals that are visual learners, so they will need to see what they're doing. We have individuals that are tactile learners, and they can actually do it by feel.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of visually impaired and blind individuals that knit very well.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of what your strength is and what your mode of...
So on the average, how long would it take me to go from picking up the needle for the first time to making a sweater?
Depends on how much you practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it like 6 months or like?
We actually had a couple of women who picked it up for the first time, and they 6 months pretty much went into doing a sweater. That was every day. They practiced, and they were really motivated they had a specific pattern they really wanted to make. But
what's like the one thing that you hate knitting? Is there like one thing where you're like,
I hate picking up stitches. Yeah.
What is that?
So on the side of on the edging of, let's say, a cardigan, you have that nice button band where it's a piece of where it's the button holes.
Oh yeah, okay. It's like a little loop that you put the button through.
That doesn't appear magically. You have to make that happen.
Yeah.
And the way that you make that happen is by picking up the stitches on the edge, and that's frustrating because you have to be.
So you kind of like go back and then attach that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, that's a little frustrating. That's why I like to work in the round where there's not a lot of seams. So. But it's all good.
Yeah. Is there like a craft or knitting style that you have yet to learn that's kind of on your bucket list?
That's a good question. I probably would like to get a little bit better with weaving.
Yeah.
Myself. I probably would like to learn to do a better button band.
Yeah.
There's always places to get better and do a better job with seaming. Yeah, but I've pretty much did quite a bit of different techniques, so I'm happy with where I am.
What about you, Paul? What's next on your hit list that you're?
Well, I'm working on a scarf now.
Yeah,
and about halfway through it. So, and I'm going faster as we go.
Yeah,
as we speak. I'd like to make a hat next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at pom-poms. I think, I can go out there and say, Paul's pom-poms are working.
How many pom-poms have you made already?
Well, for this yarn barming, I probably made 15, but I'd made several others in preparation of the Art Week.
You're right.
Because we had
what did you guys do for Art Week?
Yeah, so what we did is we had a fiber event
Mm-hmm.
where people could go up on our beautiful second floor area.
Yeah.
Has wonderful views, a big table. It's where we do most of our classes. And they were able to see the different fibers that had been shared recently from the animals. So we had a bag of sheep fiber, and it smelled like it came right out of the barn.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, it did. I mean, and you could feel it, and you could feel the lanolin in it, all the natural oils and materials that came with. We had some llama material. We had some cotton. And then we had a couple of items that people could make. They could make a hand shawl.
Yeah.
Arm knitted shawl.
Arm knitted shawl, right? And that would take about maybe 45 minutes. And then we had people that could make we could make a pom-pom.
Yep.
And then dress it up to make it look like a little sheep.
Oh,
so
nice.
We had all the parts to go on that. And then we had a couple of we had some items designed for weaving. So you could weave like a bracelet or something. And actually, that was pretty popular. That we started to make bracelet kits now.
Oh, no kidding.
And we put those kits out, and they're selling very well. We had a lot of interest in them. And the first day we made one sample. It was still in the side of the desk. And a woman came over and looked at it and said, "I like that. Well, how much?" And so we sold it before we even had put it in the system.
Yeah, I feel like that would be popular with like the kids.
Yeah. So Jen came up with a great idea on how to put that together, and we've been putting them together. It was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I wanted to say about knitting. You were talking about therapeutic and some of the background. It's also really good for people that either like math or want to learn mathematics, because generally you're counting stitches as you're going across, and math becomes a big part of it. so much that sometimes you could have like a row with 120 stitches, and you have to count them, and sometimes you have to add to it and subtract to it depending on what pattern you're making.
Right.
We actually have devices called stitch markers. You can put them every 10th or 20th stitch so you can count them easier later and see where you are. But it's really good in developing for children a mathematical part of their mind as well. So while they're doing the therapy, while they're making something that's really fun, you're thinking of someone you're making it for, you're making something that's going to be really unique and colorful and fun.
So
you're actually using math to do it, and it's good for them.
Yeah. Do you keep track in your head as you're stitching? Like, are you counting as you're going, or do you kind of like go and then go back and count?
Well, a little of that.
A little of both.
Or
a little of both.
You write it down, or there are stitch counters that you can use.
Yeah, because I feel like, you'd be like 107, 108. Oh, it's right over there. 100. Oh, shit.
That happens, yeah.
Yeah, there are certain patterns that Jen will not do while she's watching TV, or I cannot talk to her while she's doing it.
Yeah.
It's just like that's the rule.
Yeah.
And there are certain ones that she can do pretty much anywhere, which is another funny thing that one time we had some discussion about where people have knit and some of the funniest places that they've knit before. So Jen, said, I've brought it to like the baseball game, the football game, and we had a couple of other fun ones. I think the best one,
like a kids game or like a professional.
Red Sox.
Professional,
Yeah, okay.
Red Sox game.
I can see that. I'm not a big Red Sox fan.
The beach.
Yeah.
And one woman came up and said that she did it on the back of her husband's motorcycle. So she was knitting while they were going down
Oh my
the road.
God, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah. But it's fun. People will knit wherever they can just because they're excited about the pattern. They want to see it go forward, and
it passes the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great for the car or the train.
Like I said, my mother's a big knitter, and she had family down in Philadelphia, and we'd go down all the time, and that's what she would do in the car.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, where can people go online to check out not the art shop? Man, my brain just totally went. We were busy last night at an event, so my brain's a little fuzzy. At Plymouth Harbor Knits, like is there a website?
Yes, we have a website. It's PlymouthHarborKnits.com. We have a little bit of information about ourselves, some of the types of yarn that we have, the brands, and some information about the activities that are going to go on. We have a calendar, and then the types of classes that we have that we offer.
Now, do you guys sell online, or are you looking to do that at some point?
No, we don't sell online right now, although we've had some customers that have called us
Yeah.
and said, hey, there was some yarn there, I've traveled and I'd like to get it.
Yeah.
Or I need 2 more skeins, can you send it to me? Or do you have this, and can you mail it to us? And we'll do that. But, we don't have that online. It's hard to compete with the big stores. To do that.
Right, yeah.
And really, we want to be the locals shop. And really what we can do better than any other place around here, whether it be the Michaels, the Walmarts, where you can go and get other brands, is people can come in the shop, and they do regularly, and say, hey, I have a question, I have a problem. I'm not sure how to get over that.
Right.
And Jen really takes them through that, plus our other wonderful staff that can help them as well. They can walk them through what their challenge is in usually a few minutes, but if it takes more time, we've done that.
Right.
We're there to help. We want to get people enjoying making their articles.
Right. I
So
mean,
we
at
help them
Walmart,
through
it may
it.
be a few dollars cheaper, but you're not going to have the expertise that
Not at all.
you're not going to be able to ask that they're not going to know the difference between crocheting or knitting.
Exactly.
Generally speaking.
Plus, they won't have the variety of really beautiful fibers that we have.
Yeah.
And so that really makes the difference. That's really what we're trying to do is help people enjoy, just like when they buy a skein of yarn, right? I think you saw them. You have balls of yarn.
Yes.
And then you have hanks of yarn. The hanks you actually have to wind into the ball. And so
there was like a spinning device, like a wooden
Swifter.
Yeah, I'm
the
trying
Swifter.
to like figure out how to describe it. It reminded me of like a folding laundry rack.
Yeah.
It's kind of like looks similar. It's a totally different shape, and then so you put the yarn on that, and then kind of take a lead off, and then there's a little crank, and you spin it, and it puts it into a
puts
ball.
it into a ball.
Yeah.
So we offer that as a something that we'll do for our customers, so that way when they get home they can start knitting. They don't have to sit there and then unwind it and get it into the ball themselves.
Right.
And it's all about really getting people to do what they want to do, what they love to do, and help them with it. And you can't do that online. You can't do that in the big stores.
Right.
So that's
and it sounds like you're building a community of knitters too, with like
Exactly.
the Knit in Public thing. And
Exactly. We have a social knitting night on Thursdays where women just get together to knit and gab,
Yeah.
which is great. And we have
my sister calls it stitching and bitching.
Yep, there's that.
we
Yeah.
call it stitch and knit.
Yeah.
But,
Sit and knit. And then we have one on Saturdays and on Thursday mornings. So it's good. It's good. It is building a community, and that's
Yeah.
really what we wanted to do.
right. And we also have a Facebook page
Yeah.
that people can go on, and we post some fun things, including that wonderful video that you helped
Oh,
us make,
yeah.
which we really love.
Oh, I'm glad. I hope
Yeah.
you got some good
Good.
feedback from it.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we love feedback from people, with the things that they're happy about. So far, that's what we've gotten is all positive feedback.
Yeah,
So
well,
we're really pleased.
Plymouth is a great place to build communities. We've been working on the Inebri-art one since 2011, and we're constantly blown away at how much is going on. It's now to the point where people are reaching out to us to be like, hey, we want to do this, and we have a fundraiser, and can you help us out here and help us out there? And it's such a great place, and everyone is so willing to help everybody else out.
Exactly.
So I think you guys will have a lot of fun this summer, and
So, yeah.
hopefully, maybe you can make my lobster some mittens if he's still around in
Come
the
the
wintertime.
wintertime,
Yeah.
exactly.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
He's gotten on TV a few times, so it's pretty neat.
Cool.
He was. They ran school cancellations over him during one of the bad storms we had.
Oh,
so
cool.
Mittens would have looked pretty cool on him.
Yeah. Dress him up. It's cold out there.
Yeah. I call him Woodrow.
Woodrow, okay.
His name is Claudia.
Okay.
So he's got some gender issues. But, as I was working on him, thinking of names, and one of the sponsors was Wood Seafood. So I'm like, oh, Woodrow, that makes perfect sense. So I just started calling him Woodrow. My kids call him Woodrow. And then apparently they had a vote amongst the sponsors' staffs on what the names would be, and they picked Claudia, which the unfortunate thing is someone else named their lobster Claudia too. So I keep joking that I'm going to go down and put a name tag on him that says, hello, my name is Woodrow. So maybe towards the end of the summer.
We'll knit him a sweater with a big W.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be awesome. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. I got to know you
having
guys
us.
through Art Week, and
Yeah.
so hopefully we'll do more next Art Week and
Exactly.
other events coming up. Are you guys looking to? I know, like they have Winterfest and other stuff like that. Are you guys kind of like already planning stuff for upcoming events like that, or?
I think we're taking it month by month at this
Yeah.
point in time, and I would definitely like to start looking into more events. One of the things that we're doing is collecting caps for kids for the Dana-Farber Hospital,
Oh, nice.
as well as Children's
Yeah.
Hospital. So women are making, everybody is making little hats
Yeah.
for them. But I'd love to see the Nelson Park project that was done by a couple of women. I believe it was a year ago, where they knit scarves, sweaters, hats for anyone who was in need of something to keep them warm. So that would be something else I'd really
Oh,
love
that's
to
very
see.
cool. Yeah, that'd be a good
moving
wintertime
along.
thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I hope you kill it this summer, and
Thank you.
I expect to see
Thanks,
good
Andy.
things from you guys. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to check out our other podcasts. There's the Bar Talk podcast, there's Old Colony Cast, and of course the Inebri-art podcast along with Jam Packed. You can find all those on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. If you're on some sort of service and you can't find it, let us know, and we'll help you out, and or add our podcast to that too. You can contact us at inebriart@yahoo.com, and follow us on Facebook as well as Twitter at Inebri-art. And feel free to send us some tips, ideas, advice, hate mail, whatever it is, you can get us there. And again, thanks for listening.